everyone. How are you? Hi. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. Before I bring out our guests, can we get another round of applause? Certainly worthy of all of that applause. Thank you again so much for being here. I am Jared Hall. I'm Senior Awards Editor at Entertainment Weekly and host of our What to Watch podcast. And this show in particular is one that we have highlighted quite a bit over its 2-season run. So it really gives me a lot of joy to be here with all of you tonight and with our two guests to talk about it. So please join me in welcoming Maya Erskine and Anna Konkol.
Party crime.
Well, we'll see how much more we can do that tonight. No, seriously, this show I will start by congratulating both of you on what really a lot of people have not been able to accomplish. I think this show in 2 years, in an odd way, it feels like it's been on so much longer. And I think that's credit to the two of you for the amount of storytelling you were able to pack into those 2 years. So kudos to you on that. This show, obviously, very personal to both of you. And as you thought about all of the formative experiences of your life, and certainly the age range that we see in the show, what aspects that did make it in were you perhaps hesitant about including?
What parts were we hesitant?
Yes.
Oh, a lot.
Really?
I mean, obviously, for me, it was the masturbation because that was, something that right. And I would say that if I were making this show by myself, I would never put that in the show probably, but having your best friends make the show with you, you have someone to encourage you and say, no,
same.
but Anna was like, you have to put that in there. So thank you.
I needed it.
All your fault.
No, I think there was something that happened with that instance, like in particular, and this would happen a lot in the writer's room, where we'd be like, oh, what's the truth? What's the memory that, you're not supposed to talk about? Masturbation, obviously, top of the list. As a girl, as a woman, because I think thinking back to, kids at 13 and the guys and stuff were like talking about it publicly. It was like a joke in school. And the girls, weren't supposed to. And at 30-something, when we're talking about writing this, and this happened over and over, it was like, well, we can't talk about that. And then we'd have this dialogue together that was kind of like, well, why? Let's just at least question why.
Right. And I think it was that that was sort of one of the reasons that we had become friends, was like bonding over shameful secrets and using that as like using comedy to talk about it. So that was our way to cope with it or to be okay with it. So I would talk about masturbation to Anna in a way that was funny, or
at parties.
At parties.
In college.
My way to be like, I do it, and it's fine, and it's okay.
And it would be a punchline also. We'd be out and it'd be come up with someone else, and I'd be like, this is revolutionary.
Right, so then the idea of if we're talking about it and that's something that we can sort of relate, maybe there are other people who do this too, I don't know,
there are.
Yeah. I'm sure you have heard from them.
I have.
For better or worse. Okay, so hearing you talk about that, looking back then, was there a moment where you thought, we've got to put pen to paper here, finger to keyboard, and like do something with these stories?
I mean, in the writer's room when they're like, what are your 10 episodes? That was a moment of panic and being like, okay, we need to do this. And I think before and just conceiving the show, and it started as a bit of a broader idea, and then it took 4 to 7 years, some range like that, to actually make it and sell it and start making it. And so we got a lot older, and our point of view changed, and as the seasons went on too, it's like, okay, we're still playing 13, we're still in our 30s, inspires us, what challenges us, what are we dealing with now that is scary, that did begin then, and sort of wanting to not hold back and like talk about the things that we're scared to talk about.
Yeah, I think you said it right. Like, it was, the idea was broader in that we were sort of playing with the idea of us being around actual 13-year-olds. Oh, that's comedy in and of itself. Like, we sort of were thinking in that way, as opposed to years later realizing like, oh, but what's the truth of what happened? Like, what are the memories? We haven't seen this age portrayed in a way, like in mainstream, just of what it actually felt like to be 13. Like a 13-year-old girl, you don't get to see all those little nuances, all those experiences, the bad, the good, and the messy, and how funny it is, but also so painful. And so I think that's when we started talking about our actual experiences and put them on the board, it was like, oh, that's an episode, you know? And
yeah, and I think also it started to feel more and more important in the sense of like, who knows how long we get to make this show. And even in the first season, assuming certainly no one's gonna watch this, and 10 episodes, what is our mission statement here? And it was to tell the shameful secret stories that on some level we're all conditioned to say, like, to never talk about, and believe that you're the only one going through it. And so it was a huge catharsis just the first season, expecting to get messages from 3 people that are like, you're weird and gross. And it wasn't that. It changed to, I've never told anyone this, I didn't know anybody else was going through this.
did you read my diary? This exactly happened to me. Yeah.
And so that was healing for us too, I think, because everybody, I think, on some level feels like an outsider.
Yeah, I can certainly tell you, watching, this is a show that my group of friends and I, we will watch, like when we would get together on Friday nights or something, we would play this, and it would open up that dialogue. We would talk about stuff, and you know, we are very close friends, and these are things we had never even talked about before. So I think that's really cool what you've been able to do. Mission accomplished, for sure on that. Specifically looking at this second half of the second season, I think what you guys do is a really incredible job of bridging the comedic and the dramatic elements. So why was it so significant to you to show not just the light and the funny and the comedic parts of being this age, but also the really more, in a lot of ways we see here, sad and difficult ones?
Yeah. I think like the first season was very much about firsts, and a lot of the firsts that, you know, we see in coming of age stories, but wanting to tell them in a way that maybe you haven't seen in terms of like the, you know, sexual experiences with yourself. But the second season became about emotional firsts, and then this final season, because we did write it in 3 parts, it was always intended to be the most mature, loss of innocence, on the extreme, sexuality with another person, a guy that you're falling in love with or that you are getting your sense of self from mistakenly, death, dealing with death for the first time. And it's such an abstract idea, you know, and trying to, like, you can't process it, and when do you first process it, and at what age, and what happens. And yeah, loss of innocence was sort of the major theme, and that's innately hard to watch because we saw our characters from the beginning being like, you know, just innocent and free and kids, and they're growing up, and there's loss in that.
And lots of immaturity to deal with,
Right.
which is such a joy to watch in so many ways. I want to read something that our critic Darren Franish wrote about in his review, the final stretch of episodes. He said, "I don't know how autobiographical Pen15 was. Maybe the show is secretly about the impossible dream of meeting your best college friend in elementary school. But as creators and performers, Erskine and Conkle wore their least defensible memories on their sleeve. Thongs, Wild Things, South Park tees, Santana Smooth. The finale is a quietly humane sexual horror story with some genuine LOLs and serious swoons. It's as disturbing as a French movie, yet somehow romantic enough for Technicolor." Yeah, I thought that was a really fascinating passage he wrote. Speaking specifically to the 2 episodes that they saw here, Runaway and Home, what was your biggest challenge in figuring out how to wrap up the story, or did you already know how you wanted to end it and everything was kind of reverse engineered?
We didn't actually fully know where we wanted to end it. I think we had ideas of, do we see them in the future? Do we see them, are they friends still when they're adults? Like, we kind of played around with a lot. And I think we always wanted to sort of leave it open-ended of, letting the audience imagine what this friendship evolves to, what you can take from it, of thinking of your own friend, where you guys are now, or if you're still friends with that friend, or if you still love them, even if you don't see them every day. I think that was really important to us, to leave that open-ended. And I think the thing that we always knew we wanted to do was, because of them sort of running away, getting away from themselves, dating these older guys, doing things that aren't really who they feel as themselves, we wanted them to end at home, like come back to home and come back to each other. And so it was really important to place it in Anna's room or Maya's room and have it just be them two.
That's beautiful. A couple other episodes from this season, I have to talk about. Yuki, by the way, played so wonderfully by Maya's mom. That episode I could watch over and over again. It's really stunning, I think. What was the impetus for that? Why did you feel it was important to tell her story?
I was very worried it was going to be the most boring episode because it wasn't including both of us, but it actually, I think the impetus started when we were especially writing episodes about our mother-daughter relationships, and we kind of touched on that in 2A, and it really was the idea of seeing not only a mother, but like an immigrant mother living in America, like as the lead. Like, I don't think I've seen that often, just at least in TV, and not seeing her through the lens of anyone else but her. Like, it wasn't through Maya's idea, like my narrow idea of my mom is just as my mom. I haven't even seen her for her whole self. And so this episode, which is sad to say that I'm, like in my 30s, but that was like my first time seeing her as like this woman, this person, not just my mom. And it was such an incredible experience to do that for the show, but then to also do that in real life. So I think the impetus was to really just show a mother and a woman as herself. And I think someone wrote about it like that it was almost like this noir sort of, and that you were seeing, like, as opposed to, Asian women being in those kinds of films, like under the male gaze, like, just sort of on the side, like, like the stereotypical, like, I gave you $5, whatever it is. She had humor, but not through her accent. She had humor through like her own personality, her own like weirdness, and was the lead. Like, that was really cool.
And she did such a great job.
She did.
She killed it. Yeah, she killed it. Another episode, Luminaria. Okay.
Love.
Why a cancer walk?
I don't know.
Which I definitely did those in middle school, high school. So I get it. I felt like I was right back in southern Indiana on that track. But why a cancer walk?
No, yeah. I mean, it's based on a very real, weird experience, like to the T of that episode. I think the episode before, there was this, I remember when my grandmother passed away, and I said the word abstract before, it was so abstract, and she lived in Florida, and I loved her, and then I was told she was gone, and I was in 3rd grade in real life, and I remember just being like, kind of crying on purpose, not because I didn't miss her or the idea of her not being around, but it was so inconceivable that she was there and then she's gone. And it's just this fascinating thing that as a society, I think, especially like on the Western side of things, don't really think about or talk about. And so we wanted that to be in the show. And so we did that through the grandmother character of, we start like hysterically laughing inappropriately at the funeral. And that was kind of just to relay, like, they don't get it. This isn't sunk in. So what does grief look like? And what does realization of loss, like truly the first time you feel and comprehend death, which for me probably hasn't happened until like true adulthood. but we wanted to kind of study it through the lens of these 13-year-olds. And so the Walk for Cancer was kind of a really wonderful way to do it. And in my real life, I had gone on this walk and I was there by myself. I wish you were there with me. And it was all night, and on paper I was like, maybe I'll meet some guys and they'll talk to me. And it was so vapid, you know, I wasn't like, I'm here for this amazing reason. I got it and I meant it, but more so I was like, he's really cute. And lo and behold, like a miracle, they like came and talked to me, but it became this, I mean, it's like really to the T of the episode where they were like, you should kiss him, you should kiss him. And that in itself is interesting as girls and women. I think like that pressure is something I started feeling when I was really quite young. And so we wanted that in there. But then there was the added complexity that we really didn't want to vilify, but just let be complex, of him being like, kiss him, he has cancer. And me in real life not believing it and be like, no, he doesn't, you just want a kiss. And then learning that he did, actually, and the guilt I felt and the complexity of that, and really processing as a child-to-child experience of like, you're battling for your life. And this is very dark and doesn't have a place in Pen15, and I don't know, but we wanted to try. And I feel lucky that we got to try, but it's really light. It's fodder.
Super light, yes.
Super light, it's fun, it's dreamy.
The comment you just made, I'm glad we got to try. Were there any things that you wanted to try but just didn't have enough episodes to get to do?
We remember things way after like production ends, and then we're like, we should have put that in there. But I don't think we treated season 1 as our only season. This is the only season we're ever going to be able to make. Let's fit it all in.
This is getting canceled.
Yeah, we just didn't believe that this was even going to make it to the air. So I think we like put everything we could think of that was like very seminal, you know, all the firsts and all of those things. But I can't think of like...
Every once in a while something happens or I hear a story where
right.
that should have been in there.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking specifically to your performances here, I mean, look, being a teen is no easy job. The emotions, the roller coaster of that, it's all like always right there at the surface, ready to explode in unpredictable ways. And I think if you ask a lot of people, they will say middle school is a time they would never in a million years want to revisit. Yes? Great, okay.
I'm so sorry.
But you guys went there, you relived it. So having said all of that, what did you actually enjoy about these characters and kind of going through the emotions again?
Yeah. No. There's like, who's putting the mic closer to their mouth?
Oh, you talk.
You got it.
I mean, I will say that the most enjoyable part of being that age is like, and especially that we have the like 2 best friends, is we get to show this unabashed love, like extreme joy and you know,
Right.
It's
like if we came out right now and I just like sat on Maya's lap.
yeah, like
Can you imagine? It's like, hey guys.
but you get to like show what you feel that
Right.
as an adult you're not doing all the time, because in society you're like, okay, well we'll sit.
I'm supposed to sit in this
separate
chair.
chairs, you know,
Yeah.
and there's something about, you know, this really close like love story. And so getting to be 13 and do that, and of course like because I was acting with my real mom, it was very easy for me to go back to those whiny annoying places, and I'm very sorry for that, because I know and also my brother edited the show, and when he would edit he would like hate that he would get some episodes where I'm like, you know, screaming, and he was just like, this is...
He'd be like, it's going on for too long, I think.
You gotta cut off.
It's funny, it's good. He's like, it's really annoying.
You're
I
welcome.
think that's just you. It's good.
That's everyone, but yeah, it's also him.
So then on the flip side, what did you enjoy least about what you put yourselves through?
I mean, the bind sucked.
Yeah,
on
that was the
our
word.
that physical stuff was hard. It was fun though, I have to say, and felt really meaningful. like exaggerating the parts of yourself that you're insecure about, especially coming as an actor, you know, on other shows and being a woman. And it's the opposite, where it's put fake hair in, which I'm wearing tonight, and you know, like look better and look prettier and be sexier and wear higher shoes and whatever, and to just put the bind on and your stomach is a sausage and you're showing it on purpose and you're exaggerating the parts of yourself that you already don't feel great about, and then doing it on camera was so liberating.
I almost have to say now, I'm like now thinking about it. This is probably a tangent, and I'm sorry, but this is where I've come to now. Is like, was I hiding behind that in a way of because you're like, oh, here I am, like,
because we could have not exaggerated it. We could have just been like adding extra mustache hair.
Right. What if we
or mustache hairs at all?
Well, what if we just left my real mustache hairs and didn't add to it? Then I'm not trying.
Right. To be just like, I'm really just showing my full self. But then you want to be your character also.
Right.
Which isn't, you know, I'm not.
Isn't fooling me. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track.
We can go far down the hole of and then bad things.
Well, it would start bad. I think the cathartic moments, the things that you didn't expect to affect you emotionally, like there were scenes that were meant to be comedic, and then it would just hit you out of nowhere, and you're like, wow, it's still there? Like the things that traumatized us at that age or that hurt us, like even just a friend hurting you at that age, like that is right here. It's still very close to the surface, and I feel like it's something that we learned through making this of like, wow, yeah, like your 13-year-old self is still there, even when you're 50, when you're 80, when it doesn't leave. Those insecurities can be really, you know, close to the surface.
Yeah, and also so much of the show is about firsts that are highs and incredible, and that's really fun to go through just like super innocently. But then the lows, the first time your heart aches, the first time you feel mistreated, the first time there's loss, or to put yourself back there was uncomfortable. And it could be pretty relentless at times, where it was like, oh, we're doing that scene now? Cool, I just did that other one where my heart broke. Like that, and intentionally not doing that as a 35-year-old with whatever cynicism or knowledge, going back and just trying to tap into the most raw, naive, you know, innocent part of yourself and being heartbroken. That was hard. It was a beautiful experience. I think it was cathartic, but it was.
We of course mentioned your mom, but the rest of the supporting cast we have to give a shout out to here, because they're also good, especially thank you. Especially the younger actors who are the classmates. Did they treat you guys any differently? Did they, you know, like when you were in character, or did you actually maybe find yourselves inspired by them?
Definitely inspired.
Oh, for
that was
sure.
very helpful.
I mean, first season, I've talked about this a lot, but first season, like, the popular girls met me in character first, and fully were not into it, and they met Anna, like, out of character. They were confused, but, like, they met Anna out of character, and they were, like, all over her, you know, she was wearing, like, cute jeans, and I was wearing, and they were like, Anna, show me the dance move, and I was like, you guys, it's like this, and they just, like, didn't react, and so I went really back to my 13-year-old self immediately, where I was like, guys, I wear high-waisted jeans too, like, this is a costume. I was trying so hard to, like, be accepted by them.
Because they were like, I love your, I'm just talking complimentary of myself. They were like, I love your high-waisted jeans. I was like, oh, thanks, these old things.
And I was like, I've been
in her character low jeans, and I hear her just be like, I usually wear those. I started wearing those in high school, but I'm in character right now. I have long hair, but
And so then they started to see us out of character, understood it a little bit more, and then I feel like by second season, once we had a break,
they knew you were cool.
Not cool, but they just, like, knew we weren't just the actor. Like, they, you know.
Everyone was confused first season. The crew, no one knew what they signed up for, and then walked in, and we'd be we'd be acting and Maya might be masturbating and I
That was the first week.
whatever, and then we'd be like, wait, let's take it again, and sorry, this is not right, and everyone would be, I heard actually two members that first season being like, this is why you don't let actors this is why you don't let actors have an opinion on that, like, and speak up. And I heard them out of the, because they didn't know we were like also the writers and creators.
They were like so pissed that we were stopping things to change lighting or something. They're like, who are these people? Like, you know,
who are these children? Also, that blew my mind. Sometimes also kids, I remember, would start talking, like background would start talking to us in a way, because we're all kids. And I remember just for fun thinking that they would say I was old and being like, whatever age is fine, but how old do you think I am? And she said 16, and I was like, really?
the character.
She probably knew it was just.
No, she didn't. The character of Gabe and I became very close.
Yes.
You were not able to be there for like a week or something.
And I came back and I'd fully been replaced. They were, I just rewatched this recently because I recorded them talking about how close they had become, and that you were like, well, he's an old soul, and he was like, and you're a young soul. And he was like, yeah, we're like 16, and you're like 19. And then he poured a bunch of pepper on the table and said, guess which granule I'm thinking of. And you guys played that. You were like
an hour.
Stupid. And then you were like, that one. And he goes, right before you got the right one, he goes, when you get it, you're not gonna think it's stupid. And then you were like, that one, and he was like, yes, and you were thrilled. And then I walked away because I was like, I'm done. I've been replaced. This is over.
It was great.
I'm happy for you. You guys are great.
I was going to ask you to sing the praise of the crafts folks and, production design and stuff, but I don't know. If they thought you were just kids with opinions, I don't know.
No, just the first
Sure,
season.
okay.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, I mean, this show being set in, the early 2000s, that era, capturing that from, everything, the design, logo designs on products look so different. Just tell me about everything that those folks put into taking us back in time.
So much eBay. They also, a lot of them were in middle school around that same time. And I think our biggest thing was to do things from your memory and do things that aren't the obvious, don't pick the, Christina Aguilera song. What's the one that, the famous one? Pick one that we don't, maybe you remembered listening to on your first kiss that you forgot about, all of those. So, Pogs, or we wanted all of those little things in the background, things that we don't really remember until someone's like, Pogs, and then,
Yeah, and the crew is really relentless, like you said, with eBay and going to consignment stores, and Melissa Walker was our costume designer, and always nothing was new.
Woo! Amazing.
And yeah, just picking things that had been used, previously, and just I feel like through the screen you can feel it, whether it's our show or a different show, when the texture of the fabric is different or new, and I definitely feel it as a character. I'd be like, I don't know. I definitely wore character underwear.
Oh yeah, of course.
You too?
Yeah.
Right. Because then I would sneak out and
production design. What was crazy is that we didn't even. I don't even think we showed them pictures of our actual childhood bedrooms. I don't know, but
no.
When we walked into the rooms, it was it was alarming, because I know that you were like, oh my God, I had this exact same wallpaper. I had this blanket. I had all of these things that the specificity with which they chose things, they just nailed it. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Love that. I think we're about approaching time here, but just a couple more things. As I mentioned, my friends and I watch the show a lot, and some of those friends will quote the show just in random conversations, some of the most inappropriate things, and then you're like, what? And you're like, oh, it's from Pen15, right? So I would love to know if you have a favorite line from the show, or even if there's a favorite scene or moment that just is you will never forget.
Sorry, just
What are you thinking of?
the
Aardvark? Oh.
no thong
Oh.
pole. Like because it was such a hard week. I remember of shooting, and we were in this like hot church. It was hot in the church, and it was a hot. It wasn't a hot church.
It was hot.
And there was the thong scene, and Anna, we had like triples of these thongs, and Anna was supposed to rip one and pull it from me, and when she pulled it, it was like very stretchy, and it just like pulled to like, and we couldn't stop laughing. And
I was gonna rip immediately, and then it was like fourth. Yeah, it was really good.
And we couldn't stop laughing, and I think we used takes where like we're laughing, but yeah, because we didn't get many takes.
Oh, I guess
one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I love remembering that people used to say play. That's in it of
Like getting play?
Yeah, like did you get play?
Yeah.
That makes me laugh. Aardvark dick and your dad died.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Yeah, it's a
That was
classic. Do you want to do that right now?
I don't remember. You got an aardvark dick and your dad died. Is that what I say? Or you have an aardvark? Yeah.
You went right back. Yeah, you yelled it louder, but
That's sort of based on a true story. It didn't go that dark, but yeah.
but close.
Close, yeah.
Aardvark dick was real. Aardvark.
I never said the things to him, but I practiced it.
Your brother told you.
My brother told me what to say, and then I cornered him, and everyone was ready for the fight, and I was just like, midget, and then I walked away, and nothing happened.
You did better in the show. That's the thing, you get to rewrite
History.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it should have been, clearly.
Right.
Lastly here, take me back to your last day of filming. What was that like? What scene was it? What do you recall of that?
There were kind of two last days.
Yeah.
Bat mitzvah, because we had to shut down for COVID for a bit.
Yeah, so the actual last day was the scene in Bat Mitzvah where me, you, and Steve are standing outside and drinking menthe. Is that what it is?
Creme de menthe.
Creme de menthe.
Sorry, Mom. My mom's here. I did steal creme de menthe from your cabinet, and I love you.
And that was another that we couldn't get through, and it wasn't emotional. It was like could not stop laughing.
Yeah. The
Maybe
crying
on
came
some
weeks
level because you
later.
didn't want it to end?
I think we were in denial.
Yeah.
Like of just the last scene came, and then everybody on the crew started crying.
Yeah.
And I cried a little bit, and then I cried a lot more at home later.
Yeah.
And cry every once in a while, like, you know, coming onto this stage and it doesn't feel sometimes like it even happened. I don't know if that's COVID but
Yeah.
this makes it feel real, which I guess it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So that was the first last day.
That was the second.
That was the
last
second,
day.
okay.
The first last day
I was shooting Yuki.
Yuki. She
and
had
it
to
was
stop in the middle of her episode of directing and
So,
didn't
right.
finish for a year.
By then I had a baby.
And you had a baby.
Yeah.
And was pumping during her takes.
Wow.
She was
Yeah, by the way,
incredible.
they both had children during COVID, came back and finished shooting
Yeah.
the rest of the show.
Crazy. I wish we had filmed this together, pregnant as 13-year-olds. And done the movie. Thought a lot about that.
Yeah.
Never went quite the right way. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well,
Anyway, on that note.
On that note, you brought up Bat Mitzvah. Now all I can think about is make sure you RSVP, and I'm just so annoyed at her all over again. It's so good. It's so good. The entire series. Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thanks to all of you. And it's outside for a little spin.
Thank you.
Everyone.
I'll see you guys up there.
Okay.